Hey guys! Tonight we slip into the steamy, blood-soaked streets of the Aztec Empire, where the air hums with chants and the scent of copal incense stings your nose. Picture this. You're standing on a causeway, the great city of Tenochtitlan sprawling before you, its pyramids slicing the sky, canals glinting under a relentless sun. You're not just visiting. You're stuck here, a nobody in a world where gods demand hearts and warriors wield obsidian blades sharper than your kitchen knives. One wrong move, and you're probably not surviving this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I love knowing where you're drifting off from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake up, sprawled on a reed mat in a cramped adobe hut. The air's thick, like breathing soup, and outside, the city's already screaming. Merchants hawking, drums thumping, some poor soul wailing in the distance. Tenochtitlan, capital of the Aztec Empire in 1519, is a marvel. 200,000 people, bigger than most European cities of its day, built on a lake with chinampas, those floating farm islands, feeding the masses. But don't get cozy. This place is a death trap for someone like you, dropped in with no status, no allies, and zero clue how to navigate a society obsessed with sacrifice. Historians still argue whether the Aztecs killed 20,000 or 80,000 a year for their gods, but either way, you're not thrilled to be here. Your stomach growls, but breakfast isn't a quick cereal run. You're offered a tamale stuffed with maize and... Wait, is that dog meat? Yeah. The Aztecs bred hairless dogs for food, a quirky tidbit that makes your modern pet lover heart wince. You nibble, hoping it's just beans, and step outside. The city's a sensory overload. Turquoise feathers flutter on nobles' headdresses, commoners in loincloths shove past, and the stench of fish from Lake Texcoco hits like a punch. You're in the heart of Mesoamerica's superpower, but you're a speck, and the rules here are brutal. Let's talk survival. You need to blend in, fast. The Aztecs are all about hierarchy. Nobles, priests, warriors, then everyone else, including you, probably lumped with the Masahualtan, the commoners. One misstep, like eyeing a noble's fancy cape, could land you in a cage, destined for the altar. Oh, and that altar? It's not a metaphor. The Templo Mayor, the city's massive double pyramid, looms over everything. You can see it from your hut. Its twin shrines to Huitzilopochtli, the war god, and Tlaloc, the rain god, painted red with, yep, you guessed it, blood. Mainstream fact: archaeologists found over 40,000 skulls at the temple's rack in the 20th century, so the body count was real. You decide to explore, hoping to find a way to not die. The causeways stretch across the lake, connecting the city to the mainland, and you trudge along one, dodging merchants balancing cacao beans and obsidian tools. You're tempted to steal a mango, but theft means a one-way ticket to slavery, or worse. A priest passes, his hair matted with blood, and you shiver. Fun fact: priests didn't wash their hair during rituals, letting it crust with offerings. Gross. But you're not laughing when you see his black-painted face and know he's prepping for tonight's ceremony. Here's a joke to lighten the mood. Why did the Aztec cross the causeway? To not get sacrificed on the other side. Okay, maybe not funny when you're living it. You reach the city center and it's buzzing. Kids run past, probably headed to school. Yep, the Aztecs had mandatory education, even for girls, which was wild for the time. But don't get too impressed. Those kids are also learning how to wield a macuahuitl, that wooden sword lined with obsidian that can slice through bone. You're not cut out for this, are you? As the sun climbs, you feel the heat and the weight of this world. You're not just a tourist. You're prey in a city where the gods are always watching, and their appetite is endless. You glance at the Templo Mayor again, its steps gleaming, and wonder how long you've got before your name's on the guest list. Spoiler, not long. Let's keep moving, see if you can survive the next hour. You're still breathing, somehow, in the heart of Tenochtitlan, the Aztec capital where every shadow feels like a threat. The sun's climbing higher, baking the stone beneath your feet, and the distant drums from the Templo Mayor are getting louder, more insistent. You're not just wandering now, you're headed toward the Great Pyramid itself, the pulsing core of this city's bloody religion. The air's thick with incense and something sharper, metallic, and you're pretty sure you don't want to know what it is. Your heart's thudding, not just from the heat, but because you've heard the stories. Those temple steps aren't for sightseeing. You're about to see what sacred really means here. And trust me, it's not a vibe you'd post about. The causeway you're on narrows, funneling you toward the sacred precinct, a walled-off zone where the Templo Mayor squats like a stone beast. Crowds thicken. Commoners like you, nobles in feathered cloaks, and priests with those creepy blood-crusted hairstyles. You try to keep your head down, but it's hard when the pyramid's twin shrines loom, one red for Huitzilopochtli, the war god, the other blue for Tlaloc, the rain god. Mainstream fact: the temple was rebuilt 7 times, each layer bigger, with the final one, finished around 1497, standing 60 meters tall. That's a 20-story building of pure intimidation, and you're walking right into its shadow. You reach the base, and a priest's chant cuts through the noise, low, guttural, like he's talking to something not human. You're nudged forward by the crowd, up the first few steps. The stone's worn smooth, slick with something you pretend isn't blood. You glance up, 114 steps to the top, where the altars wait. A quirky tidbit? The Aztecs believed the gods needed human hearts to keep the sun moving, so sacrifice wasn't just ritual, it was cosmic tech support. Fail to deliver, and the world ends. No pressure, right? Your legs burn as you climb, pushed by the mob. You're not here by choice. Maybe you're a curious idiot, or maybe someone volunteered you to witness the show. Halfway up, you catch a glimpse of the altar, a stone slab, stained dark, with channels carved to drain, well, you know. Historians still argue whether victims were mostly captives or if locals, even nobles, sometimes volunteered for the honor. Either way, you're not feeling honored. The crowd's chanting now, and you're close enough to see the priest's obsidian knife glint. It's sharper than your chef's knife, and way less friendly. Here's a joke to ease the tension. Why don't Aztecs play Uno? Because the wild card's always a heart. Yeah, okay, you're not laughing either. You're too busy noticing the skull rack nearby, the Tzompantli, where thousands of bleached heads are strung like grim trophies. You try to focus on breathing, but the air's heavy with smoke and fear. A warrior, face painted black and red, shoves past, his jaguar skin cape brushing you. He's an eagle warrior, elite, and you're nothing. One wrong look, and you're on that slab. You're near the top now, and the view's dizzying. Tenochtitlan spreads below, canals shimmering, Chinampas dotting the lake. It's beautiful, but beauty's a trap here. The priest's voice peaks, and you see the victim, a young man, painted blue, eyes wide but weirdly calm. Drugged, maybe, with pulque or sacred mushrooms. The knife flashes, and you look away, but the crowd's roar tells you it's done. Your stomach lurches. You're not cut out for this, are you? Nobody warned you history was this raw. You stumble down the steps, legs shaky, desperate to get away. The crowd's buzzing, some weeping, others cheering, like this was just Tuesday's entertainment. You spot a kid munching maize cakes, unfazed, and wonder how anyone lives like this. Then you remember, they don't all live. The gods are always hungry, and you're still here, still a nobody. You need to move, find somewhere less stabby. Maybe the market or the canals, anywhere but here. As you slip back into the city, the temple's shadow lingers. You can't unsee that knife or unhear the chants. You're starting to get why survival's a long shot. Oh, and that smell? It's not just incense anymore. You're gonna need a serious distraction to sleep tonight, but for now, you keep walking, one foot in front of the other, praying you don't end up back on those steps. You're back on solid ground, away from the Templo Mayor's grim spectacle. But Tenochtitlan's pulse still thrums through you, relentless and unnerving. The city's a maze of canals and causeways, and you're headed toward the Chinampas, those floating gardens that keep this place fed. The air's cooler here, laced with lake water and the faint sweetness of maize, but don't kid yourself. Survival's still a coin toss. You're a stranger in a world where one wrong step could land you in a cage or worse. The temple's chants echo in your head, and you're starting to realize there's no safe in this empire, just degrees of danger. You hop into a canoe, guided by a wiry farmer who doesn't bother looking at you. The water's murky, lapping against the boat, and you're surrounded by Chinampas, man-made islands, lashed together with reeds and piled with rich lake mud. These gardens are a marvel. Mainstream fact, they produced up to 7 harvests a year, feeding Tenochtitlan's 200,000 mouths with maize, beans, and squash. But as you glide past, you notice the stakes. Literally. Some plots are marked with sharpened poles, a reminder that trespassers don't get a warning. You're not here to farm, though. You're here to figure out how to eat without ending up on someone's bad side. The farmer mutters something in Nahuatl, and you catch the word tlacatl, human. Not comforting. You paddle faster, eyeing the crops. There's amaranth, its red stalks swaying, and chili peppers so bright they look like they'd burn your soul. Quirky tidbit. The Aztecs used amaranth in rituals, shaping it into doughy idols of gods, then, eating them. You're not sure if that's cool or creepy, but you're hungry enough to consider anything. The farmer offers you a maize cob, and you munch, the kernels tough but sweet. It's not delivery pizza, but it'll do. You're drifting now, the canoe rocking gently, and for a second you think maybe you could hack this. Then you see a crocodile slip into the water, its eyes like wet stones. Your heart skips. Historians still argue whether the Aztecs kept crocs as pets, or just let them roam the lake to snack on intruders. Either way, you're not sticking around to find out. You paddle toward a busier canal, where merchants shout and canoes bump like rush hour traffic. You're aiming for the shore, but the current's strong, and your arms are screaming. Joke time. Why'd the Aztec canoe sink? Too many sacrifices weighed it down. Okay, you're not laughing, but you need something to keep your nerves steady. You finally reach a dock, legs wobbly as you climb out. The Chinampas are behind you, but their lesson lingers. Even the food here comes with a side of risk. You're in a quieter district now, adobe houses packed tight, kids playing with wooden tops in the dust. A woman kneels, grinding maize on a stone metate, her hands moving like she's done this forever. You're tempted to ask for a taco, but you've got no cacao beans to trade, and begging's a fast track to trouble. Instead, you keep moving, following the canal toward the city's edge. The lake's vast, shimmering under the afternoon sun, and you can see the distant mountains framing the valley. It's gorgeous, but beauty's a liar here. The water that feeds the Chinampas also hides crocs, and the farmers who smile might report you to a warrior if you look shady. You're starting to get the Aztec vibe. Everything's a balance, like those gods who give rain but demand blood. You're not built for this, are you? Back home, your biggest worry's a dead phone battery. Here, it's avoiding a very literal deadline. As you walk, you spot a noble's house, its walls painted with snakes and jaguars. A guard eyes you, his macuahuitl. Remember that obsidian-lined sword resting on his shoulder. You nod, trying to look chill, but your pulse is racing. Another joke, because why not? What's an Aztec's favorite workout? Cardio, straight to the altar. You force a smile, but the guard's not buying it. Time to move. The market's not far, and maybe there's safety in the chaos. Or maybe not. Either way, you're learning fast. In Tenochtitlan, hope's a luxury, and you're running low. You're weaving through Tenochtitlan's bustling streets now, the Chinampas' eerie calm behind you, but the city's energy is a different kind of beast. The market of Tlatelolco, the biggest in the Aztec world, sprawls ahead, a riot of colors, smells, and voices that hit you like a tidal wave. You're hoping to blend into the chaos, maybe score some food or a clue to staying alive. But the air's thick with chilly smoke and the glint of obsidian weapons. Jaguar warriors prowl the edges, their spotted capes screaming, "Don't mess with me," and you're just a nobody with no plan and sweat stinging your eyes. Survival's feeling like a sick joke, and you're the punchline. The market's a beast. Mainstream fact. Tlatelolco's marketplace could host 60,000 people daily, trading everything from feathers to slaves. You push through the crowd, dodging baskets of avocados and cages of squawking turkeys. Merchants shout in Nahuatl, waving cacao beans like they're gold, which they basically are. You've got nothing to trade, so you keep your hands to yourself. Stealing's a death wish here. One swipe of a mango, and you're off to the altar or enslaved. You spot a vendor selling tamales, steam rising, and your stomach growls. Quirky tidbit. Aztecs sometimes stuffed tamales with insects. Grasshoppers, anyone? You pass, but hunger's making you desperate. A jaguar warrior brushes past, his obsidian club gleaming, and you freeze. These guys are elite, trained to capture enemies for sacrifice, and you're not exactly stealthy. His eyes lock on you for a second, and you try to look busy, inspecting a pile of chili peppers like you're a connoisseur. Historians still argue whether jaguar warriors were more about prestige or actual combat, but right now, you're just praying he doesn't see you as practice. He moves on, and you exhale, heart hammering. Joke time. Why's a jaguar warrior bad at hide and seek? Because his cape's too loud. You're not laughing, but it keeps you from bolting. You drift deeper into the market where things get weirder. A woman offers you a clay jar of pulque, the fermented agave drink that's basically Aztec beer. You're tempted, but it's strong enough to knock you out, and passing out here's a bad idea. Nearby, a man hawks amulets shaped like skulls, claiming they ward off evil spirits. You're skeptical, but with the temple's shadow still haunting you, you almost believe him. The crowd's a mix of commoners in loincloths, nobles dripping in jade, and priests with that telltale blood-matted hair. Everyone's watching everyone, and you're starting to feel like prey. You pause by a stall piled with turquoise and feathers, the vendor rattling off prices faster than you can blink. You're out of your depth, but you catch a glimpse of something grim, a cage with a man inside, head bowed, marked for sacrifice. Your stomach twists. You remember the temple, that knife, and suddenly the tamales don't sound so great. You turn away, bumping into a kid who's juggling clay balls like it's no big deal. He grins, and for a second, you envy his ease. Then you see the warrior again, circling back, and your blood runs cold. Time to move. You slip toward the market's edge, where the noise fades and the lake's breeze cuts through the heat. The city's canals glint, and you can see the Templo Mayor in the distance, its red steps mocking you. Another joke, because you need it. What's an Aztec merchant's favorite song? Cacao beans, what you gonna do? You hum it under your breath, but it doesn't help. The market's chaos was supposed to be your shield, but it's just another trap. You're learning fast. In Tenochtitlan, every step's a gamble, and you're not a lucky guy. You're headed nowhere specific now, just away from those jaguar eyes and the market's suffocating press. The gods feel closer here, their hunger in every shout, every blade. You're not sure what's next, but you know one thing. You're not cut out for this world, and it's only a matter of time before it catches up. You've slipped away from Tlatelolco's chaotic market, its shouts and jaguar warriors fading behind you, but Tenochtitlan's grip doesn't loosen. The city's heartbeat, drums, chants, the slosh of canals, follows you as you wander toward a quieter district where adobe homes huddle under the shadow of the Templo Mayor. The air's still heavy, spiced with copal and lake mud, and you're starting to feel the weight of this place. You're not just a stranger here. You're a speck in a world where the gods rule everything, and their appetite for blood shapes every move you make. You're hoping to lay low, but in the Aztec Empire, even breathing feels like asking for trouble. You pause by a small plaza, where a priest burns incense before a stone idol, its carved face snarling. The gods are everywhere. Huitzilopochtli, the war god, demanding hearts. Tlaloc, the rain god, craving drowned children, and dozens more, all with their own gruesome menus. Mainstream fact. The Aztecs believed the universe ran on a cosmic balance, where human sacrifice kept the sun rising and the rains falling. Skip a ritual, and it's game over for the world. You're not buying it, but the locals do, and that's what keeps you on edge. Every glance feels like someone's sizing you up for the altar. You duck into an alley, hoping to avoid another priest's stare. A woman passes, her face painted with yellow ochre, a sign she's fasting for some god. Quirky tidbit. Aztec women sometimes wore makeup made from crushed beetles, giving their lips a red shimmer that was, frankly, fabulous. You're not here to admire cosmetics, though. You're trying to understand why this city's so obsessed with death. The answer's simple. The gods aren't just stories. They're the law, the weather, the reason you're eating maize instead of starving. You're starting to see why people climb those temple steps willingly. It's not just fear, it's faith. Your stomach rumbles, and you realize you haven't eaten since that maize cob by the Chinampas. You spot a kid selling atole, a warm maize drink, and you're tempted, but you've got no cacao beans to trade. You're learning fast. Money talks, and you're broke. A warrior struts by, his feathered shield flashing, and you shrink back. Historians still argue whether the Aztecs saw sacrifice as a spiritual necessity or a political tool to keep vassal states in line. Either way, you're not sticking around to debate it. You keep moving, eyes on the ground, praying you don't look like a good offering. Here's a joke to cut the tension. Why don't Aztecs play chess? Because the king's always sacrificed. You smirk, but it's hollow. The god's presence is suffocating, and you're starting to feel like you're in a cosmic horror flick. You pass a small shrine, where a family kneels, offering maize and feathers. They're calm, like this is just Tuesday, and you wonder how they do it. Then you see the bloodstains on the stone, and your throat tightens. You're not built for this, are you? Back home, your biggest worry's a Wi-Fi outage. Here, it's dodging a divine hit list. You turn a corner and nearly trip over a dog, one of those hairless soloid squintly, bred for food and sacrifice. It yips, and you flinch, half expecting a priest to pop out. Another joke, because you're desperate. What's an Aztec dog's favorite trick? Playing dead, literally. You force a chuckle, but the dog's staring like it knows you're doomed. You keep walking, the city closing in. The god's hunger is in every statue, every chant, every knife. You're starting to wonder if you'll ever feel safe again. As you move, the plaza's behind you, but the gods aren't. You can still smell the incense, still hear the drums. You're headed toward the city's heart again, maybe toward the ball courts or the markets, anywhere with people who aren't praying for your blood. You're learning the hard way. In Tenochtitlan, the gods don't just watch, they hunt. And you're still here, still running, still hoping you can outsmart a world that doesn't play fair. You're still weaving through Tenochtitlan's maze, the gods' eerie presence trailing you like a bad dream. The city's relentless, canals gurgling, drums pulsing, and that ever-present whiff of incense mixed with something sour. You're hungry, tired, and way out of your depth, but you've stumbled into a humbler neighborhood where commoners grind maize and kids chase those weird hairless dogs. You're hoping for a break, maybe some food that doesn't come with a side of cosmic dread. Spoiler, the Aztec Empire doesn't do chill. You're about to face the weird, wild world of their daily diet and medicine, and let's just say your modern stomach isn't ready. You spot a woman by a clay stove, slapping maize dough into flatbreads. She offers you one, and you take it, grateful for anything that isn't grasshoppers. Mainstream fact: maize was the Aztec diet's backbone, making up 80% of their calories, ground into tortillas, tamales, or atole. You bite in, the corn gritty but warm, and for a second, you feel human. Then, she hands you a sauce, bright red, smelling like fire. Chilies, the Aztec obsession, are in everything. You dip, and your mouth erupts. Tears stream, and she laughs, saying something in Nahuatl about weak tongues. You're not laughing, but you're alive, so that's something. Then things get weird. A man nearby, face painted with black stripes, offers you a drink from a gourd. It's cloudy, and he says it's medicine for your spirit. Quirky tidbit. Aztecs used crocodile dung in ointments, believing it cured infections. You're pretty sure this isn't dung, but the smell's not reassuring. Maybe pulque mixed with herbs, or worse, something from a toad. You politely decline, muttering about allergies, and he shrugs, sipping it himself. You're starting to realize medicine here is half science, half sorcery, and you'd rather not roll the dice. Your throat's still burning from the chili, and you're desperate for water, but the lake's not exactly Evian. You ask a kid for a drink, and he points to a clay jug. You sip, praying it's clean, and notice a faint tang, maybe agave or fermented fruit. Historians still argue whether Aztec water was safe or if they boiled it like smart folks. Either way, you're thirsty enough to risk it. The kid grins, offering you a tamale with, oh no, ants. You pass, but he munches happily, and you're torn between respect and nausea. Joke time. Why'd the Aztec chef quit? Too many ants in the kitchen. You force a smile, but your stomach's doing flips. You keep moving, passing a healer's stall piled with herbs, bones, and jars of who knows what. The healer's chanting, waving a feather over a sick woman, and you're not sure if it's a vibe or a scam. Aztecs were advanced. Surgery with obsidian blades, herbal remedies for fevers, but they also thought illness came from angry gods. You're not here for a checkup, though. You're just trying to eat and not die. You snag another tortilla from a vendor, trading a nod and a nervous grin. It's plain, but it's food, and you're learning to take wins where you can. The neighborhood's buzzing now, with women weaving Maggie fibers and men carving wooden tools. You're struck by how normal it feels, despite the gods and knives looming over everything. Then you see a priest in the distance, his black robe dragging, and your pulse spikes. Another joke, because you need it. What's an Aztec's favorite spice? Chili, because it's always a sacrifice. You're not chuckling, but it keeps you grounded. The priest doesn't notice you, and you slip away, clutching your tortilla like it's a lifeline. As you leave the stalls behind, the city's rhythm creeps back. Drums, chants, the lake's low hum. You're starting to get it. Food and medicine here aren't just survival, they're rituals, tied to the gods who demand your blood. You're not cut out for this, are you? Back home, you'd be ordering takeout, not dodging dung-based cures. For now, you keep walking, hoping the next corner's less weird, but knowing deep down that Tenochtitlan doesn't do easy. You're still trudging through Tenochtitlan, the chilly sting fading from your tongue but not the unease in your gut. The city's hum, canals, chants, and that distant drumbeat keeps you on edge, like you're one wrong turn from trouble. You've left the food stalls and quirky medicines behind, and now you're near a massive stone court, its walls carved with snakes and skulls. This is the Tlachtli Court, where the Aztecs play their sacred ball game, and you're about to find out why it's not just a sport. The crowd's buzzing, and you're pulled in, hoping to blend, but the stakes here are higher than a Super Bowl bet. Lose, and you might not walk away. The court's huge, an eye-shaped arena with sloping walls and stone rings high above. Mainstream fact: Tlachtli, or Ulamaliztli, was played across Mesoamerica with rubber balls that could weigh up to 9 pounds. You're handed a padded belt by a grinning player, and before you know it, you're on the court, the crowd roaring. The rules are brutal. No hands, no feet. Just hips, elbows, and knees to slam the ball through a tiny ring. Oh, and the ball's coming at you like a cannon. You dodge, barely, and the crowd laughs. You're not an athlete, are you? The game's not just fun, it's cosmic. Quirky tidbit. The court symbolizes the universe, with the ball as the sun, and losing could mean you're unbalancing the world. No wonder the players look intense, their faces painted, eyes wild. You're teamed with a wiry guy who's all muscle, but he's not thrilled to have you. You flail, missing the ball, and it thuds against the wall. The crowd jeers, and you spot a priest watching, his obsidian knife gleaming. Historians still argue whether losers were always sacrificed or if it was just captives. Either way, you're not feeling lucky. You try to keep up, sweat dripping, heart pounding. The ball's a blur, and your teammates shouting in Nahuatl, probably cursing your name. You manage to hip check the ball, sending it toward the ring, and the crowd cheers, then groans as it misses. Joke time. Why's Tlachtli so stressful? Because the goal's a real heartbreaker. You're not laughing, but it keeps you from panicking. The other team scores, and the game ends. Your side lost, and your teammate glares like you're the reason. You're starting to think that priest isn't here for the popcorn. The crowd disperses, but the priest lingers, eyeing you. You slip toward the court's edge, heart in your throat. You're not sure if losing means a knife to the chest, but you're not sticking around to find out. You remember that altar from the Templo Mayor, the blood channels, and your legs move faster. Another joke, because you're desperate. What's an Aztec's favorite sport? Tlachtli, because it's a real game changer. You force a chuckle, but it's hollow. The court's behind you, but the game's weight lingers. Every move here feels like a test, and you're failing. You're back in the city now, the Tlachtli court's roar fading, but Tenochtitlan's pulse is relentless. You pass a kid bouncing a rubber ball, carefree, and envy him. For him, it's just a game. For you, it's a reminder. Nothing here's just anything. The gods are in every kick, every score, every loss. You're headed nowhere specific, just away from that priest and the court's grim vibe. Maybe the market again, or the canals. Anywhere you can breathe without feeling like the sun's fate depends on you. As you walk, the city's beauty hits you. Canals glinting, pyramids soaring. But it's a trap. The same gods who make the maze grow want your blood. And the Tlachtli court proved it. You're not cut out for this, are you? Back home, you'd be streaming a game, not praying you survive one. For now, you keep moving, hoping the next corner's less deadly, but knowing Tenochtitlan plays hardball in every sense. You've escaped the Tlachtli court's sweaty chaos, the priest's stare still burning in your mind as you slip back into Tenochtitlan's crowded streets. The city's relentless, canals hissing, drums thudding, and that faint, coppery scent you're trying not to name. You're shaken, legs wobbly from dodging that rubber ball and the grim vibes of the game. You're hoping for a breather, maybe a corner of this empire where you're not one misstep from disaster. But fate's got other plans. You're about to learn what happens when you hit rock bottom in the Aztec world. Slavery. Spoiler alert, it's not a career path you'd pick. You're weaving through a quieter district, adobe houses packed tight, when a hand grabs your arm. It's a warrior, face painted with black stripes. His makwa huitl, yep, that obsidian-sliced sword, hanging at his side. You must have looked too aimless, too out of place. Before you can stammer an excuse, he's barking in Nahuatl, and you're dragged to a stone courtyard. Mainstream fact: slavery in the Aztec Empire was common, with tens of thousands enslaved, often for debts, crimes, or as war captives. You're not sure what you did. Maybe you bumped a noble, but you're now property, and freedom's a fever dream. The courtyard's grim, lined with wooden cages where others huddle, heads bowed. You're shoved into one, the door slamming shut. The air's sour, thick with sweat and despair. Quirky tidbit: some slaves could earn freedom by paying off debts or marrying free citizens, but most ended up as labor or, gulp, sacrifices. You're not feeling optimistic, especially when you see a priest pacing nearby muttering about offerings. Your cage mate, a gaunt man with a scar across his cheek, whispers you might be sold at Tlatelolco's market. Great. Back to that chaos, but this time in chains. You're trying to stay calm, but the cage's bars dig into your back, and the priest's chants aren't helping. Historians still argue whether Aztec slavery was harsher than Europe's at the time or just differently brutal. Right now, you don't care about debates. You're just praying you're not altar-bound. The warrior returns, hauling you out for inspection. You're prodded like livestock, your arms checked for strength. You're no gym bro, and the warrior snorts, unimpressed. Joke time. Why's an Aztec slave's life tough? Because the benefits package includes a knife. You're not laughing, but it keeps your panic at bay. Your march toward the market, wrists bound with maguey rope that chafes like sandpaper. The city's a blur, merchants shouting, kids laughing, life going on like you're not one step from oblivion. You pass the Templo Mayor, its red steps mocking you, and remember that altar, the knife's flash. Your throat tightens. The market's ahead, and you're shoved into a pen with other slaves, buyers circling like vultures. A noble in a feathered cape eyes you, then moves on. You're not sure if that's good or bad. Another joke, because you're clinging to sanity. What's an Aztec slave's dream job? Not being one. You force a smirk, but it's grim. The day drags, the sun scorching your skin. You're given a sip of pulque, the fermented agave drink, and it burns going down. Your cage mate said some slaves work fields or homes, but the lucky ones get picked for the gods. You're not feeling lucky. The crowd thins as evening falls, and you're left unsold, for now. The warrior hauls you back to the courtyard, muttering about tomorrow. You're starting to get it. In Tenochtitlan, freedom's not a right. It's a fluke. You're not built for this, are you? Back home, you'd be scrolling your phone, not praying for a buyer who doesn't worship Huitzilopochtli. As night settles, the city's drums slow, but the tension doesn't. You're back in the cage. The stars above, no comfort when you know what tomorrow might bring. You're learning fast. In the Aztec world, you're only as free as the gods, and their knives allow. For now, you curl up, hoping for a miracle, but knowing Tenochtitlan doesn't deal in happy endings. You're still trapped in Tenochtitlan's brutal grip, the cage's wooden bars digging into your back as the city hums into the night. The drums have softened, but the air's still thick with copal and fear, and you're a slave, unsold, waiting for dawn to decide your fate. You're exhausted, your wrists raw from maguey rope, and the memory of the Templo Mayor's altar keeps you from sleeping. Just when you think things can't get worse, a new whisper ripples through the city. Rumors of strange men with pale faces and metal skins spotted on the coast. You're about to learn the Aztec world's about to get shaken, and you're stuck in the middle of it. You're curled in the courtyard, the other slaves muttering in low tones. A guard, his jaguar cape swaying, lets slip a word. Teotl. It means God, but he's not talking about Huitzilopochtli. He's talking about these newcomers, seen near the Gulf, riding deer without antlers, and wielding sticks that spit fire. Mainstream fact. In 1519, Hernán Cortés and his Spanish crew landed on Mexico's coast, sparking rumors that reached Tenochtitlan months before their arrival. You're catching the early buzz, and it's not comforting. Are these guys saviors or trouble? Spoiler, you're not betting on rescue. The rumors spread like chili smoke. A woman in a nearby cage whispers about omens. A comet, a temple fire, a lake boiling. Quirky tidbit. Aztec codices record 8 omens before Cortés arrived, including a smoking star that freaked everyone out. You're skeptical, but the slaves' wide eyes tell you they believe it. The gods are angry, they say, and these bearded strangers might be their wrath or their rivals. You're not sure what's worse, staying a slave or meeting these gods who sound like they pack serious heat. Your cage mate, the scarred guy, mutters about running, but the guard's obsidian club says that's a bad idea. You try to piece it together, but your head's foggy from hunger and fear. The Spanish are still far off, but their shadows already here, stirring the city. Historians still argue whether the Aztecs saw Cortés as a god, maybe Quetzalcoatl returning, or just a dangerous invader. Right now, you're just hoping they don't make your life harder. The guard paces, muttering about Moctezuma, the emperor, sending scouts to the coast. You've heard of him, ruler of millions, living in a palace with 100 rooms. You're a nobody, but even you feel the city's tension, like a bowstring about to snap. Joke time, because you need a break. Why'd the Aztec guard hate rumors? They gave him a headache bigger than a pyramid. You force a chuckle, but it's weak. The night's cool now, the lake's breeze slipping through the bars, but you're shivering for other reasons. You remember the Tlachtli court, the market, the altar. Every step in Tenochtitlan's a trap, and now there's a new player in the game. You curl tighter, trying to imagine home, but the city's pulse, those drums, that incense, keeps you anchored. Another joke because you're desperate. What's an Aztec's worst gossip? Strangers with beards and bad intentions? It's not funny, but it keeps you sane. Morning's coming, and with it, another market day. You might be sold, sacrificed, or wild card, caught up in whatever these pale strangers bring. The slaves around you are praying, some to Tlaloc, others to gods you don't know. You're not praying, but you're wishing for a miracle. The city's waking, the first merchants shouting, and you hear a distant horn, sharp and urgent. Is it the Emperor's men? The strangers? You're not sure, but you know one thing. Tenochtitlan's about to get messier, and you're still in a cage, still a pawn in a game you don't understand. As the sky lightens, The guard kicks your cage, barking orders. You're headed back to Tlatelolco, back to the vultures and their cacao beans. The rumors linger, though, like a bad taste. You're learning fast. In the Aztec world, change isn't hope, it's chaos. And you're not built for chaos, are you? For now, you stumble to your feet, praying the next hour doesn't end with a knife or a bearded stranger's fire stick. You're back in Tenochtitlan's suffocating grip, dragged from the slave cage as dawn paints the sky pink over Lake Texcoco. The rumors of bearded strangers still buzz, but your immediate problem is the warrior hauling you toward Tlatelolco's market, your wrists chafed raw by Magi rope. The city's alive, canals rippling, merchants shouting, and that relentless drumbeat from the Templo Mayor. You're praying for a buyer who doesn't eye you like a sacrifice, but the air's electric with something bigger. Word spreading. Those pale men, the gods from the coast, are closer, and their leaders about to crash into the Aztec world. You're about to witness Cortez meeting Moctezuma, and trust me, it's not a friendly handshake. You're shuffled through the market, the chaos of chili smoke and feather stalls blurring past, when you hear it. A murmur rippling through the crowd. Moctezuma's palace, a sprawling fortress of stone and murals, is hosting strangers. Mainstream fact: in November 1519, Hernán Cortés and his 400 Spaniards marched into Tenochtitlan, welcomed uneasily by Moctezuma II after weeks of tense diplomacy. You're not at the palace. Slaves don't get VIP invites, but you're close enough to catch the city's pulse shift. Warriors line the causeways, their jaguar capes stiff, and priests chant louder, like they're trying to drown out the omens. You're shoved into a pen, but the market's distracted. A vendor, ignoring you, whispers about the strangers' floating houses and metal skins. Quirky tidbit: the Aztecs were baffled by Spanish ships, calling them water mountains, and thought horses were giant deer. You'd laugh, but you're too busy scanning for an escape. The buyer crowd's thin. Everyone's gawking at the Palace District, where Cortés, a scrappy Spaniard with a cross and a cannon, is meeting Moctezuma, the emperor who rules millions. You imagine it: Moctezuma in gold and Quetzal feathers, Cortés in dented armor, both sizing each other up like boxers before a fight. The tension's thick, and you're stuck in it. Historians still argue whether Moctezuma thought Cortés was Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god, or just played nice to buy time. Either way, you feel the city holding its breath. A noble passes, muttering about gifts: gold, jade, even human hearts, piled high to impress the strangers. You're not impressed. You're terrified. If these gods are trouble, you're a disposable pawn. Joke time, to keep your nerves steady. Why'd Cortés visit Tenochtitlan? To spice up his resume. You smirk, but it's grim. The market's buzzing, but not for slaves. Everyone's obsessed with the palace drama. You crane your neck, catching a glimpse of the causeway. Spanish soldiers, their armor glinting, march in, trailed by Tlaxcalan allies, Aztec enemies who've thrown in with Cortés. The crowd split, some awestruck, others hissing. You spot a priest, his blood-matted hair swaying, glaring like he smells betrayal. Another joke, because you're clinging to sanity. What's an Aztec's worst guest? One who brings cannons to dinner. You're not laughing, but it keeps you from bolting. The pen's guard is distracted, whispering about Moctezuma's speech, something about welcoming the strangers as kin. You're not buying the hospitality act. The day drags, the sun scorching your skin. You're unsold again, but for once, that's not the worst news. The city's on edge, and you're starting to get it. This meeting's a spark in a powder keg. Cortez wants gold, Moctezuma wants control, and you're just collateral. You remember the temple's altar, the Tlachtli court, the slave cages. Tenochtitlan's a machine, and now it's glitching. The guard hauls you back to the courtyard, muttering about trouble coming. You're not sure if he means the Spanish or you, but you're not asking. As night falls, the city's drums slow, but the tension doesn't. You're back in the cage, the lake's breeze cold against your sweat. The palace is quiet now, but you know Cortez and Moctezuma aren't swapping bedtime stories. You're learning fast. In the Aztec world, strangers don't bring peace. They bring chaos. You're not built for this, are you? Back home, you'd be binge-watching history, not living it. For now, you curl up, the stars above mocking you, wondering if tomorrow's buyer, or those fire sticks, will decide your fate. You're still caged in Tenochtitlan's grim courtyard, the night air sharp with lake chill and the faint burn of copal. The city's quieter now, but the buzz from Cortez and Moctezuma's meeting lingers like a storm cloud. You're a slave, unsold, wrists aching from rope, and the rumors of bearded strangers with fire sticks are no longer just whispers. They're a scream. But something worse is creeping through the city, something you can't see or fight. You're about to learn why the Spanish brought more than cannons. Smallpox, a silent killer, is here, and Tenochtitlan's starting to choke. You're in the middle of it, and survival's looking bleaker by the hour. Morning breaks, and you're hauled out of the cage, not for the market, but to a work detail, carrying maize sacks to a noble's house. The streets are tense, warriors patrolling, their eyes darting like they're waiting for a fight. Mainstream fact: smallpox, brought by the Spanish in 1520, killed up to 40% of Tenochtitlan's population, spreading faster than rumors in a city packed tight. You notice it first in the workers around you: coughs, fevered eyes, skin blotched with sores. You're no doctor, but you know this isn't good. You try to keep your distance, but the air feels thick, like it's carrying death itself. You trudge past a canal, the water sluggish, and see a body floating, pockmarked, eyes glassy. Quirky tidbit: the Aztecs called smallpox the Great Rash, thinking it was Tlaloc's wrath, not a virus from across the sea. You're starting to feel a tickle in your throat, and panic creeps in. Is it the disease, or just fear? You splash lake water on your face, praying it's clean, but the city's turning into a graveyard. A woman wails nearby, cradling a child covered in sores, and you look away, heart pounding. Historians still argue whether smallpox hit before or after Cortez's first clash with the Aztecs, but right now, you're just dodging the sick. The noble's house is grim, its courtyard piled with bodies wrapped in mats. You drop the maize and retreat, but the overseer's coughing, and you're trapped in his orbit. You remember the chili sauce, the Tlachtli court, even the slave pens. Those were bad, but this is invisible, unstoppable. Joke time, to keep your sanity. Why smallpox the worst guest? It overstays and trashes the place. You force a smirk, but it's hollow. You're starting to see why the Aztecs fear their gods. Everything feels like a punishment, and you're not even on the altar. You're sent back to the streets, tasked with hauling more supplies, but the city's unraveling. Priests chant louder, burning copal to appease Tlaloc, but the sick keep piling up. You pass a market stall, now abandoned, its avocados rotting. A warrior, his face half covered in sores, glares like you're to blame. You're not Spanish, but you're a stranger, and that's close enough. Another joke, because you're desperate. What's an Aztec's worst sick day? When the gods send a rash instead of rain. You're not laughing, but it keeps you moving. The day drags, your arms aching, your throat dry. You're dodging coughs, sidestepping the fallen, but there's no escape. The Templo Mayor looms, its steps empty. Fewer sacrifices now, because the gods are collecting their due without knives. You hear Moctezuma's palace is hit, nobles dropping like flies. Cortez and his men, immune or just lucky, are still there, plotting. You're a nobody, but you feel the city's collapse in your bones. The lake's breeze carries moans, and you're starting to wonder if you'll see tomorrow. As evening falls, you're shoved back to the courtyard, no closer to freedom. The cages are half empty, some slaves sold, others dead. You curl up, the stars above cold, and try not to cough. You're learning fast. In Tenochtitlan, the gods don't need altars to kill. Smallpox is their new priest, and you're still here, still breathing, but for how long? You close your eyes, praying the next dawn doesn't bring fever, but knowing this city's out of miracles. You're still clinging to life in Tenochtitlan, the city's pulse weakening as smallpox ravages its streets. The courtyard cage is your world now, its bars cold against your skin, and the air's thick with moans and the sour stink of death. You're not sick, yet, but every cough from the other slaves makes you flinch. The Spanish are still here. Cortez and his men hold up in Moctezuma's palace, but the rumors of their fire sticks and water mountains feel distant. A new horror's taken over. Hunger. The city's under siege, food's vanishing, and you're about to learn what starvation does to an empire already on its knees. Survival's a cruel joke, and you're not laughing. You're hauled out at dawn, tasked with scavenging supplies, but the streets are ghostly. The canals are clogged with bodies. The chinampas, those floating gardens you saw ages ago, abandoned, their crops rotting. Mainstream fact. The Spanish siege of Tenochtitlan in 1521 cut off food and water, starving the city while smallpox did the rest, leading to its fall after 93 days. You're carrying a reed basket, scavenging for anything edible, but the markets are empty. Tlatelolco's stalls, once bursting with tamales and avocados, are splintered wrecks. You find a moldy maize cob and pocket it, stomach growling like a jaguar. A woman nearby, her face gaunt, offers you a strip of dried maguey, cactus flesh, tough as leather. Quirky tidbit. Aztecs ate Maggie during famines, boiling its roots or chewing its fibers, but it tastes like despair. You gnaw it, wincing, and she whispers about the Spanish blocking the causeways, trapping everyone. You're no strategist, but you get it. No food, no hope. Warriors still patrol, their ribs showing under jaguar capes, but they're too weak to glare. Historians still argue whether starvation or smallpox killed more Aztecs, but right now, you're just praying for a full stomach. You trudge toward a canal, hoping to fish, but the water's foul, and the crocodiles, remember those, are bolder now, snapping at anything that moves. You back off, clutching your maize cob like it's gold. A kid, maybe 10, begs for a bite, his eyes huge. You hesitate, then break off half. He bolts, and you curse yourself. Kindness is a luxury here. Joke time, to keep from cracking. Why's an Aztec famine so quiet? Because everyone's too hungry to chant. You force a smirk, but it's grim. The city's starving, and you're not far behind. You're sent to a noble's house, now a makeshift hospital, to deliver your haul. The noble's dead, his body wrapped in a mat, and the air's heavy with rot. You drop the basket and flee, but hunger's clawing harder. You pass a priest, his blood-matted hair thinner now, muttering about Tlaloc's betrayal. Another joke, because you're desperate. What's an Aztec's worst diet? The siege special, 0 calories, all pain. You're not chuckling, but it keeps your feet moving. The Templo Mayor's silent, no sacrifices today. Starvation's doing the gods' work. The day drags. Your legs leaden, vision blurry. Your back scavenging, finding only a rotten chili that burns your fingers. The Spanish are out there, their cannons booming, but you're too weak to care. Moctezuma's gone, dead or captive, no one's sure. And the city's new leader, Cuauhtémoc, is fighting a losing war. You're a slave, a nobody, but you feel the end coming. The lake's breeze carries smoke now, not incense, and the drums are faint, like a dying heart. As night falls, you're shoved back to the cage, your maize cob gone, shared or stolen. The other slaves are shadows, some not moving. You curl up, hunger gnawing, and try to dream of home. Pizza, soda, anything but maguey. You're learning fast. In Tenochtitlan, the gods don't need knives when hunger's their blade. You're still here, still breathing, but the city's fading, and you're not sure you'll outlast it. For now you close your eyes, praying for strength, but knowing this empire's out of mercy. You're barely holding on in Tenochtitlan, the city crumbling under siege and smallpox as hunger gnaws your bones. The cage in the courtyard is your prison, its bars slick with grime, and the air's a mix of smoke, rot, and the lake's sour tang. You're a slave, unsold, weaker by the day, and the Spanish cannons boom closer, shaking the ground. The Aztec Empire's dying, and you're caught in its final gasps. You're about to see Tenochtitlan's last stand, a desperate fight against Cortez and his allies, and trust me, it's not a Hollywood comeback. You're praying to survive, but in this city, prayers are just whispers against the roar of collapse. Dawn breaks and you're dragged from the cage to join a ragtag group of defenders. Slaves, commoners, even a few warriors too weak to lift their maquahuitls. The causeways are battlegrounds, Spanish ships, those water mountains, choking the lake. Mainstream fact. In August 1521, Cortez and his Tlaxcalan allies stormed Tenochtitlan, capturing it after a 93-day siege that left 100,000 Aztecs dead or fled. You're handed a spear, its obsidian tip dull, and shoved toward a barricade. Your arms shake, Not from fear, okay, mostly fear, but from starvation. You're no warrior, but you're fighting or you're dead. The air's thick with ash, buildings burning as cannons blast adobe to dust. You spot a Spanish soldier, his armor glinting, aiming a crossbow. You duck, the bolt whizzing past, and a warrior beside you falls, blood pooling. Quirky tidbit. Aztecs thought Spanish gunpowder was magic, calling it black smoke of the gods, but it's just lead and death. You're running now, dodging arrows, your spear useless against steel. Cuauhtémoc, the last emperor, is out there, rallying fighters, but the city's done. Historians still argue whether Cuauhtémoc surrendered or was captured, but you're too busy surviving to care. You're at the city's edge, the Templo Mayor half ruined, its red steps cracked. A priest, gaunt and wild-eyed, chants for Huitzilopochtli, but the war god's not listening. You're fighting for nothing. Freedom, survival, a maize cob. But you swing your spear anyway, hitting a Tlaxcalan's shield. He laughs, knocking you down. Joke time, to keep your sanity. Why is an Aztec battle so loud? Because even the gods need earplugs. You're not laughing, but it keeps you from breaking. The lake's red with blood, crocodiles feasting, and you're wondering if you're next. You scramble to your feet, retreating with a handful of survivors. The Spanish are everywhere, their horses, those giant deer, trampling stragglers. You hide behind a shattered wall, panting, as a cannonball obliterates a house. You remember the Chinampas, the market, the Tlachtli court, gone, all gone. Another joke, because you're desperate. What's an Aztec's worst day? When the empire's on a fire sale. You force a smirk, but it's grim. The city's a corpse, and you're still running. Still a nobody in a war you didn't start. The fight drags, hours blurring into screams and smoke. You're cornered near a canal, Spanish soldiers closing in. A warrior, his jaguar cape torn, shouts for you to jump. You do, the water cold and filthy, and swim for a crumbling chinampa. You're not sure if you're free or just delaying the inevitable. The city's falling. Cuauhtémoc's caught. The last warriors slaughtered. You're hiding, shivering, as Spanish shouts echo. The drums are silent, the gods quiet. You're learning fast. Empires don't die cleanly, and you're not the hero of this story. As night falls, you're alone, the lake lapping at your feet. Tenochtitlan's a ruin, its pyramids smoldering, its people gone or dead. You're not sure if you're free, but you're alive for now. You curl up on the Chinampa, the stars above no comfort. You're not built for this, are you? Back home, you'd be safe, warm, far from cannons and knives. For now, you close your eyes, the city's ghost haunting you, wondering if tomorrow brings freedom or just more ash. You're shivering on a crumbling Chinampa, Tenochtitlan's ruins smoldering across the lake, the air heavy with ash and silence. The Aztec Empire's gone, its pyramids shattered, its gods mute, its people dead or scattered. You're a survivor, barely, your body weak from hunger and your mind scarred by the siege's horrors. The Spanish and their Tlaxcalan allies are picking through the wreckage, but you're done with that world. Somehow, you're not in Tenochtitlan anymore. You're blinking in the damp, cold gloom of medieval Europe, 14th century, where survival's just as brutal. You're about to learn why you wouldn't last a day here either. And trust me, it's not a vacation. You're standing in a muddy village, thatched huts sagging under a gray sky, the air reeking of manure and smoke. Your Aztec rags are gone, replaced by a scratchy wool tunic, but you're still a nobody, a peasant in a world where lords and plagues call the shots. Mainstream fact: medieval Europe's feudal system tied 80% of people to the land, slaving for lords who owned everything, with famine and disease as constant shadows. Your stomach's still empty from Tenochtitlan, and the barley gruel a farmer hands you tastes like dirt. You choke it down, but it's not enough to dull the ache. The village is grim, kids barefoot in the mud, pigs rooting in filth. A quirky tidbit: medieval peasants used pottage, a vegetable sludge, as their daily meal, sometimes flavored with nettles or, yep, moldy bread. You're offered a bowl, and you eat, wincing at the grit. It's no tamale, but you're learning fast. Food here is a fight, and you're losing. The farmer mutters about taxes, how the Lord takes half the harvest, leaving scraps. You're starting to miss the chinampas, crocodiles, and all. Historians still argue whether feudalism was pure exploitation or a mutual survival pact. But right now, you just want a full stomach. You're sent to work, hauling firewood through a forest that feels alive, wolves howling in the distance. Your arms are lead, still weak from the siege, and the cold bites through your tunic. A villager warns you about bandits, outlaws who'd slit your throat for a crust. You're not sure what's worse: the wolves, the bandits, or the Lord's men who ride by, their chainmail clinking, eyeing you like you're trouble. Joke time, to keep your sanity. Why's a medieval peasant's life rough? Because the only raise is a pitchfork. You smirk, but it's weak. You're starting to feel Tenochtitlan's knives weren't so bad. The village church looms, its bell tolling, and you're herded inside for prayers. The priest, in a moth-eaten robe, drones about sin, but you're distracted by the stench: unwashed bodies, damp straw, something worse. You remember smallpox in Tenochtitlan, and your skin crawls. Another joke, because you're desperate: what's a medieval sermon like? All hellfire, no heat. You're not laughing, but it keeps you from bolting. The priest glares, and you bow your head, praying he doesn't mark you as a heretic. Burning's a thing here, and you're not fireproof. As evening falls, you're back in the fields, the sky spitting rain. The Lord's castle glows in the distance, mocking your mud-caked feet. You're learning the score: work, pray, starve, repeat. The forest's edge feels like freedom, but it's a lie. Run, and you're an outlaw, hunted like a dog. You're not built for this, are you? Back in Tenochtitlan, you dodged altars. Here, it's famine, lords, and wolves. You curl up in a hut, the straw damp, and try to dream of home. Pizza, warmth, safety. For now, you're stuck. The village's gloom as heavy as Tenochtitlan's ash, wondering if tomorrow's any kinder. You're still scraping by in this muddy medieval village, the cold seeping into your bones as you huddle in a damp hut, the straw beneath you more itch than comfort. The ghost of Tenochtitlan, its blood-soaked altars, starving siege, and smoldering ruins, lingers in your mind, but Europe's no kinder. You're a peasant, bound to a lord's land, your days a blur of toil and hunger. Now, a new shadow falls. The Black Death, the plague that makes smallpox look like a cold. You're about to face a world where survival's a gamble, and the odds are stacked against you. As you drift toward sleep, let's walk through this grim final chapter, wondering if you'll make it to dawn. The village is tense, the air thick with wood smoke and fear. You're hauling water from a well, your arms screaming, when you hear it. A bell tolling, not for prayer, but for death. Mainstream fact: the Black Death, hitting Europe in 1347, killed up to 50% of the population, spreading through fleas on rats and leaving villages like yours as graveyards. You notice the signs. A neighbor coughing, his neck swollen with buboes, dark lumps that scream plague. You drop the bucket, backing away. But the well's crowded, and everyone's breathing the same air. You're not a doctor, but you know you're in trouble. You're sent to the fields, but the work's half-hearted. Half the village is sick or dead. A woman offers you a cure, a foul paste of vinegar and herbs. Quirky tidbit: medieval folk smeared plague sores with toad venom, thinking it drew out the poison, but it just smelled like desperation. You pass, but you're clutching a rag to your face, hoping it helps. The Lord's men ride by, their horses skittish, shouting about quarantine. Historians still argue whether the plague was just bad luck or worsened by feudal overcrowding, but right now, you're just dodging the sick, praying your luck holds. Your stomach's a knot. The barley gruel from yesterday long gone. You find a rotten apple in the mud and eat it, wincing at the sour bite. The village is unraveling. Huts empty, pigs roaming, a cart piled with bodies creaking past. You remember Tenochtitlan's smallpox, the floating corpses, and shiver. Joke time, to keep your nerves steady. Why's the plague so sneaky? It always RSVPs late. You force a smirk, but it's grim. The church is silent, the priest gone, dead or fled, and you're starting to think God's as absent here as Huitzilopochtli was in the siege. You're back in the hut, the rain drumming outside, when a cough rattles your chest. Is it the plague or just the damp? Panic claws, but you're too tired to run. Another joke, because you're desperate. What's a medieval peasant's worst sick day? When the plague's the only one working. You're not laughing, but it keeps you grounded. The village is a tomb, and you're still here, still breathing, but for how long? You curl up, the straw poking, and try to dream of home. Warm beds, clean water, a world without knives or buboes. But the past holds tight, its lessons brutal. Survival's never guaranteed, whether in Tenochtitlan's ashes or Europe's mud. Now, let's ease away from the village's gloom, the plague's shadow fading as you sink deeper into your pillow. Picture the rain softening, its patter a gentle hum, blending with the whisper of a distant breeze. You're not in that hut anymore, nor Tenochtitlan's ruins. You're here, safe, the world quiet except for your steady breaths. The past is a story, its knives and fevers locked behind time's door. Feel your shoulders loosen, your thoughts drifting like leaves on a calm stream. The stars above, same ones that mocked you in the Aztec night, are kind now, winking softly. Let the weight of history slip away, each worry dissolving into the dark. You're warm, you're whole, and sleep's waiting, a gentle tide pulling you under. Rest now, carried by that breeze, into a dream where no gods hunger, no plagues hunt. Good night.